What up, dogs? Welcome. Summary of week 14 of the Highway to Value Town project, where we're betting with the value betting software Trademate Sports in the quest of completing 10,000 bets. For those of you who have followed me for the past weeks, and especially if you watched the update last week, I made some meaningful changes to the presets and the settings in Trademate Sports. On here in this little notepad thing, you see the numbers for the past week. I was able to complete 106 bets. I normally would place somewhere between 250 and 350 bets. So that's because of the change, and it's exactly as expected. I expected there to be somewhere between 50 and 100 bets this week after the changes. So my total turnover is 19,000, close to 20,000, 1.43 of the bankroll, starting bankroll size last week. That's actually pretty decent. As you can see, the average bet size close to 200, which is also a lot higher than it was in the past few weeks. It was a bad week in terms of results, down 2,500 Norwegian crowns. So that's an 18% loss on the bankroll this week. I was able to add a good amount of closing edge, even with a third of the bets that I usually place. So actually, in I think the past 6 or 8 weeks or something like that, my average closing edge added every week has been somewhere around this number, but with 3 times number of bets. So I'll quickly explain the changes for those of you who didn't follow last week. I'm now up to a closing edge, total closing edge of 11,450 and an ending bankroll of 11,395. And as you can see from the graph, the distance between my equity curve and the closing EV line curve has never been bigger. So you could say I am not running very well in this project. In fact, I'm running pretty bad. Now, I do not have access to the analytics package at the moment, so I'm not going to be able to show you the in-depth numbers for the past week. But for those of you who did not see that last update, so the changes that I made was well, we can have a look at the presets. So how the presets look like right now. So these are the bookies that I'm at. Nothing's changed there. I'm still betting on all sports, all odds types. The difference is I've capped the odds size to 3. So I'm not betting on odds higher than 3. And I've set a minimum edge of 2.5%. I think in the previous presets I had a minimum of 1%. Hours before game, 0 to 12, nothing changed there, and minimum bet, nothing changed there. And I'm only betting on recommended leagues still, but I have added tennis to the mix, so I am betting on ATP and WTA tournaments. I'm not betting on challengers. I'm not betting on futures. And it looked like, so as you can see, I'm only betting on Coolbet, Bet365, and Betson. I've left Mr. Green out here because I think I'm limited on Mr. Green. They would only let me bet like somewhere between 5 and 20 crowns on any bet, even like a head-to-head bet, like on a winner, outright winner. So absolutely terrible. So I left Mr. Green out here. So I'm betting on these, and most of the bets are coming in on the tennis bets are coming in on Bet365 actually. So those are the changes that I've made, and obviously, if I've noticed that if you look at my settled trades, that if we sort of manually go through them, you can see here that the closing edge for the past week on the bets that I've placed are considerably higher, consistently higher than they were before. So before, I would typically see these sort of there would be a lot more negative closing edges on my previous bets. There are still some negatives here. Let me see. I found like one here, negative 2.63%, and one here, minus 15%, one minus 1.79%, minus 1%, minus 2. You get it. You get the picture. But overall, I see these higher closing edges a lot more consistently. Now that's a good thing. That looks promising when I see that. So even though this first week after making these changes, things went bad results wise, I'm still optimistic about this approach. The only thing I'm a little bit worried about is that I think, and that's the problem, I can't access the analytics package, but I think that most of my bets have actually been tennis bets this first week. And I've read, I guess it's some article or some video that I saw through Trademate Sports, that the tennis market is a lot less efficient than, for example, the soccer or football markets. That makes sense because the market has less time to accumulate the information and set the right odds in between the matches, because typically there's only 24 hours in between, or maybe even less, in between the different matches. So I hope that that's not going to affect my results too much. The fact that most of them are going to be tennis bets. So you could say that, I mean, there's a lot of different, there's baseball in here, hockey, etc. Here you have the tennis matches. So I hope that, well, for sure, the standard deviation on these closing EV lines on tennis is going to be a lot higher, but I hope it don't affect my results too much on the negative side. So anyway, excuse me, that's the update for this week. It's in terms of number of bets and closing EV numbers as expected. And then we'll just continue with these presets and see how we go. So until then, or until next week, have a good one and peace out.